Mate,
Howdy.
your beard is looking fantastic. Like,
It's
yeah,
quite
right?
unkept at the moment. This is lockdown mode, unkept.
Mate, all I did is sort of grow my mustache to the point where it's really bushy, and I lost the part of my razor, so like one of the clips, so I can't really close shave it too well. So it's just a pain. I blame quarantine
Yeah,
mustache.
yeah, quarantine.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for coming on, man. It's a pleasure to have you on because I really love your songwriting and mate, you've got a lot of songs written. How many songs have you written? Do you know? Like roughly?
Wow. I guess I've put out about probably about 8 or 9 records, I suppose. So probably
Mm.
about 60 or 70 songs, I guess I've put out over the last
Wow.
10 years, 9 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
about that. I never really thought about it, but yeah,
I think it was 2011, if my memory is serving correctly. But
2012 probably. If it was the Devilstown one,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, 2012, yeah.
yeah. Man, it was cool. Have the Sinister Kids like? Are they the same members for all the albums, or does it vary? Sort of. Do you have a lot of
It's
kids?
it varies a little bit. It was always meant to be a bit of a revolving, not a revolving door, but a sort of a bit of a gypsy kind of vibe where
Yeah.
people came and went really as they pleased, and a lot of people played on all the different records, and then I guess the core players played when when we toured, obviously, you
Mm.
know what I mean, and so there's a lot more people that I would consider that I would say are part of the band, kind of the mainstay since around that time, actually, about early 2012.
Yeah.
I started
Awesome.
playing with Simon and Nathan. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, because like man, I really loved the early stuff. Like because I hadn't really listened to too much of your early stuff until this week. I thought I need to find it, and because I obviously have heard a bunch of stuff from like when we played together, and then
yeah, of course.
Machine, and then you hear stuff from the early days to now. I definitely think it's a worthy title. Has
Oh, cheers.
oh,
It's changed a bit. Yeah, yeah. It just evolves, I suppose, and you're always trying to find new ways to feel inspired by the
yeah,
whole process. I suppose it's very easy to start to feel as though you're kind of just on in one space,
yeah,
and so yeah, it's certainly evolved a bit. I mean, the early stuff was these fictional kind of towns and places and
mm,
sticking characters in there and creating these stories and into kind of connecting them through the albums, you know. So
yeah.
and
That's
then that's
awesome.
evolved. That certainly evolved from that. And then different records had different themes.
Mm,
I would feel as though I was in a certain headspace for certain records, and so
mm.
that kind of probably changes the way you write a little bit as well.
For one of the records,
Oh yeah, yeah.
was it really
I
like
mean more like
organically
I
coming
mean more
together,
like a
or?
mood, I suppose, or like a mood that I'm in
Mm,
at the time of making of the record, and a sense of what you want the record to sound like, I suppose,
yeah.
without it being like a definite specific thing.
Mm,
Um, but each of them really came along at a time when just your mood is you're in a particular headspace, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And then that will always influence how you write. And for me, it does. It influences the process a little bit. Like I'm more of a music writer. Like I come up with musical ideas very often,
Mm,
but then I have little pockets of moments where lyrics sort of come to me.
mm,
And so I kind of take those opportunities. So I write a lot of music where the music's done,
mm,
and then I'll kind of wait almost sometimes for when it strikes me that I'm in a bit of a mood to write words, and then I'll go a few weeks of writing quite
mm.
prolifically, and
Yeah,
then
no.
and I can go months again where the words kind of really where I struggle a little bit to come up
Yeah.
with not to come up with words, but just to come up with notions and ideas
Mm,
and phrasing that I'm actually proud of and I feel as though is distinctive and unique, you know?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, the lyrics, sort of looking at like from a film perspective. So the lyrics are like that's the story, and then for me, I
Yeah,
just try to fit the music as the soundtrack. So for me,
yeah,
I always find I have to start with even if it's just a single line. Just when I've got
yeah, yeah.
an idea there, and I know okay, the theme of this song will be, it'll
That's it's
be
interesting,
something
isn't it? Yeah,
dark, and I need to make the music to fit the lyrics, or if it's any
yeah,
which way.
yeah.
So I sort of write a lot like that, and I always do it really symbiotically. I always try to write it together, because I find a lot of the times
I've
if I
been doing
write,
more of that lately. So
yeah,
yeah, I've evolved into that a little bit more lately. These last, I guess, the last at least this last year or 2 years, I reckon it's been much more organic in that way of writing them at the same time. Yeah. But like I said, that's just a mood and a theme at the time. And like I'll still work on things where I'll record the music completely and I won't even have probably not even a title for the song, and the music is basically finished. And then I'll just stick it on repeat and sit down with a pad and it might be, you know, an hour or two of that at a time and just nut it out, but just put the song on repeat and start to get a feel for it melodically, where it's going, and then the music tends to just click something of an idea, of a spark of what the lyric will be about. So yeah, it's interesting, the processes.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, you know, even when you get used to a certain process, sometimes you just instantly, you know, it's just not working. You just try something different and it just happens to catch on or work. Like one of the songs off my album last year, it was I think the first time I've ever recorded the music first, and I just had this guitar riff, recorded it, looped it, just hit record and just ad-libbed some lyrics. I basically just said, okay, I'm going to stick with sat down and recorded the music first. And
approaching it from opposing ends, but, you know, obviously that's really interesting, because I've never really thought about it that much, because you just do what you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. You think, I feel like everybody does similar. But,
it's cool.
Speaking of songs, so in terms of songs for tonight, I'd love to hear what the first song you've chosen is. I've been really curious this week what you'd be playing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I thought I might start with a song called Johnny Take a Match.
Oh, I love this song. I remember you played it at the Junk Bar.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah. So I like to write these kind of sad stories, you know, like these jam characters into a story and just create this kind of landscape of what's going on, you know. And this one was one that was just really I had this feel for a kind of country, sort of cowboy country sort of vibe. And just, this story just kind of fell into place when I started working on the riff. It's called Johnny Take a Match. Do you want to play it?
Yeah, do it. Let's hear it.
Cool. Well, Mary, she walked like a woman in love. She sit by the grace of the Lord up above. Every woman you know, well, she got a need. She said, Jimmy, come down and comfort me. So come, girl, let's go where the planet. It was then that they saw him alone in the corner, just a man in his old breaking heart. Johnny, take a match to Johnny, take a match to this old town. Won't it be cold when our eyes did meet? For I knew there was some fighting to be had. Johnny, take a match to this town. Oh boy, watch it burn like my dream. Johnny, take a match to this old town. Well, won't it be a pretty sight to see? Well, he came out swinging, and my ear was ringing. Old Johnny was sharp as a knife. I took my chances early with a swing of hurly-burly, and I watched old Johnny take his final bow. Johnny, take a match to this town. Oh boy, watch it burn like my dreams gone. Johnny, take a match to this old town now. Won't it be a pretty sight to see?
Beautiful, my friend.
Cheers, man.
Such a great song. So,
Thank you.
where did you write that? Is that an old song?
Yeah, I reckon I actually wrote that. That was one of the demos for the Devilstown album,
Oh, cool.
and it didn't make the record, mostly just because I think I just had the feel and the tempo slightly wasn't where I wanted it to be, and so we didn't redo. And I had drums and everything on it, so by the time it came down to culling some songs, that one went because I just felt like it was a little too fast on the recording, and so I didn't want to put it out. So then it just kind of languished for ages, and then in 2016 I was actually looking at a bunch of songs that had fallen into that sort of situation, and so I realized I had probably about 8 songs there that were pretty much finished, but I just wasn't happy with one little bit on them. And so I did an album where I just kind of went back and just redid all of those songs.
Just, I mean, I'm assuming it's fully fictional.
Completely fictional. Yeah.
You'd be worried. It's like, I know you've travelled a lot and you've probably seen some things.
Yeah. Well, you got to be a good listener if you're a songwriter, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. There's stories
You know,
to be
like-
heard everywhere, right?
Yeah, there's experiences and stories everywhere, and that's the thing. I think when I was writing, especially back then, because that, like I said, probably wrote that song 2011, I reckon. It was like that was the headspace, like writing these stories and really digging deep into these kind of layers of characters. And so, yeah, it was kind of like indicative, I guess, of what I was writing back then. Like the stuff off Devilstown is mostly really stories, characters, events. Yeah. Narrative, like that kind of a narrative,
Yeah. No, I definitely felt that on the album. Do you like with the new album that you're working on? If I can ask like a sneaky question about it, is it a similar, or is it more reflective to yourself?
Well, the thing is, I'm kind of in the middle of a couple of things at the moment. So, I put a single out literally the week that the wheels fell off the music industry, everywhere, really, everything.
World, yeah.
and then I've got a bunch of songs that I've got, probably about 10 or 12 songs into the year, and like do a heap of traveling. I was going to head out to the desert for a couple of months and do some touring in the Northern Territory and finish the record out there. And then, so that's all been put on hold. And at the moment I'm just working on writing stuff new every week. And so the plan is with that is, as I finish that, so I'll get to 10 songs week after next, I think. Then I'm just going to collate it, put it onto Bandcamp and sell it and have it as an album.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So, and the idea was to just kind of start and finish something within the week and not procrastinate so much over mixing and sounds and levels. And is that something that I'm pretty guilty of, very guilty of, is procrastinating over songs, over the recording process, like taking a year to do an album and taking 3 months to mix a single and like really silly stuff like that, where it's just believable. And so this was about trying to kick that and trying to
Yeah.
just force myself to write, record, and be happy with what I put out at the end of 7 days.
Mm.
And it's been great. It's been really, really great.
Yeah, man. Like from a listener's perspective, it's been really good. Like, especially that
It's
last one, it felt like a really personal song, and I thought the production was really good. And I think it's sort of what you were saying before. I definitely feel I was stuck in a point where I was doing that a lot too. But it's funny, like with production, I think it's so easy to overthink. And you might overthink and like try to redo something 1,000 times, and it might sound like one minuscule better than it did initially. And sometimes it might even ruin it. You might find that the you've lost the magic of that first.
use demo takes, like guitar tracks in the final mix,
Yeah, and
because
it's
I felt though I can't recapture the spark of that first take.
yeah. Like
Yeah, yeah.
for me, I'd never done it until the last album, and the producer I was working with was just like, "Why would you want to redo this?" And I was like, "Don't we have to?" I was like, "Hell no." I was like, "Well, I never really thought of it like that," and it was one of those really weird penny drop moments. I think
Right.
in the album I reused most of the guitar was the original takes, and the
Right.
vocals for "I Don't Belong" was the original take done in my home setup. Um,
Great. Even better. That's so good. Like I love
yeah,
when that happens, man. Like it's just great.
yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as for my song, because I was
But
sort of,
sometimes that first time you do it,
mm,
there's just something. There's an energy, and I think flying when you're not even quite sure where it's still fresh in your head.
yeah,
Like you've literally just kind of written it and processed it, and so I
mm,
think there's an energy in that.
yeah, there really is.
And every
Uh,
time you do a take and you're not happy with it, it loses a little bit of that.
yeah, yeah, it really does, doesn't it? Yeah. One song I actually I was sort of weighing up what songs to play today, because I never really think about it until the day of, and then I'm like, oh, I really probably should have thought about it, but
A minute old sometimes, yeah.
yeah, basically. So I sort of wanted to play a couple of older songs, and the reason I sort of wanted to play them is because they're both in the same key, with the same sort of you can really write and perform in, and especially when you write a lot, you sometimes go back to square one, and sometimes it's not a bad thing. So I find
So
especially
what do you use as far as your tuning, man, if you don't mind me asking?
so this song is in open D, um, so like F sharp, so it's
F,
E A
did you
D
say?
F sharp A
Oh,
D.
it's sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Um,
Yeah, great.
but yeah, the first song I wanted to play, I sort of was thinking about this during the live stream, and it sort of hit me during the stream. It's a song called "You Gotta Go," and it's funny. It's about the fact that you sort of have to go and experience the world to really live, and you need to you need to go and just live before you can say you've lived. And I think when I wrote that, shows and interstate and record music and do this and do that, even go to work, I think you take it for granted,
Yeah.
especially when it's taken away from you and you're just sort of sitting there thinking, I wish I appreciated it a
So
little more.
highlighted now, isn't it?
Exactly, and it was something I never really thought
Yeah.
of until this all happened, and I was literally about to play it on
Yeah.
a live stream, and it just sort of hit me. I was like, wow, that's actually really, really weird. So yeah, I thought I'd play that. I thought it, from the perspective of mine. Take a honey, don't you go and cry. The grass ain't always greener when you go and die. You gotta go before you can go home. You wonder just who I am, a folk singer always on the run. There comes a time in a man's life when he tells a tale he needn't tell. Hush, hush, honey, don't you go and cry. The grass ain't always greener when you go and die. You gotta go before you can go home. fugitive and a vagabond, a sojourner out seeking signs. There's one tale I never told, the truth behind the meaning of life. Hush, hush, honey, don't you go and cry. The grass ain't always greener when you go and die. You gotta go, oh, before you can go home. You gotta go, oh, before you can go home. You gotta go, oh, before you can go home.
Man, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it's weird. Like,
It's
have
such
you
a
had...
sincere feel, mate.
Cheers. Yeah, it was easier times back then.
When did you write that?
I think I wrote that, would have been 2016, I think, or 20, yeah, it would have had to have been 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's funny, like, have you got many songs of yours where the meaning has changed over the years?
Oh, wow. Probably not, no. It depends, I guess, if you've come to a different, landing on an idea or a your view on something, I suppose, and that was the spirit in which you wrote the song, then yeah, I guess. But not really, not a lot, no. You found that's happened to yourself?
Not much at all. It was probably not until this song I never really thought of much, but it definitely, for that song especially, I found that the meaning had really changed for me. But yeah, I don't know, it's weird. I suppose it's part of growing up, I guess. And
it is, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Especially back then, 4 years ago, I was 22, no, 23. Yeah, 23. How old? I don't even remember how old I am now. But yeah.
Well, we don't even know what day it is these days.
Yeah, I know. I just know it's a Sunday because we're live streaming, so that's my gauge for the week. But yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, it's weird how it all comes together sometimes and how you sort of feel and yeah.
Oh, look, I still can't. It's still a mystery. Inspiration and ideas and formulating those ideas and something just becoming a cohesive piece from a bunch of disjointed ideas, that's still a mystery, and that's I think why I just get such a kick out of doing it still,
Yeah, definitely.
There's a buzz when you're rolling on an idea. There's
where it's stemming from, and you never know. And the thing I think with songwriting, there in the moment, you have to just live it right then and there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what's magic about it, though.
Yeah. With lyrics, do you take many notes? Do you write, say something comes to your head, do you keep notes or?
I do still. I've moved a little bit to just on a tablet, on a Word document. But I still inevitably just grab a pen and a pad. It's just easier.
Yeah, fair enough.
But like I said, I've given up. I used to try and have sessions where I would just go, okay, I'm writing words today, and it never worked really when I forced my 40 minutes by the side of the road writing down lines as they come into my head, So it just depends, and then I'll go 3 months and literally not a word of an idea will fall into my head. So it's just it just depends what else is going on, how busy I am. I'm not one of these people that writes on tour much.
Yeah, true.
So when I'm busy touring that, I don't really do a lot of writing. So, yeah, I take it whenever it comes.
Yeah. I was going to ask actually about touring because you obviously play so many. How many shows a year do you think you'd normally play?
Well, last year I did 100 and just over 100. And the year before, and for probably the last 8-9 years, I've averaged about, I don't know, anything between 70 and 90 shows a year, I suppose. Last year was the first time I broke 100. That was a kind of a something I wanted to try and do.
Yeah.
And I played 100 shows, but yeah, so I play a bit. Yeah.
Do you ever write songs about? I know you don't write much on when you're traveling, but do you ever write songs about the people you meet? Does that come into your writing process at all?
A lot. Yeah. Everything's really little bits of everyone to some degree, and then situations and moments and people, and inspiration's a really flighty thing. Like, for me, it is anyway. Like I said, can have very dry periods of time where I don't write. And then I usually find that if I'm in a better headspace and I tend to be inspired more. Yeah. And I'm not one of these people that writes out of even though I tend to write a lot of melancholy songs, so it creeps in. I'm not one of these people that when I'm in a not a great mood, it doesn't inspire me, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm more of a, yes, inspiration's funny. Yeah, a lot of stories and things that you hear and read and see, and then comes this big jigsaw puzzle of ideas and inspiration. But it depends too. As time goes on, I find myself much more, I guess, a little bit more focused with some of the writing, I suppose, these days. It's a little bit less of that and a bit more of just being inspired with a concept and an idea. And so I guess it's evolving.
Yeah. I think it's it's a common misconception, I think, with writing. And even I think a lot of songwriters even have this, is that when you're not in a good headspace, you're going to write your best stuff. It's complete.
I don't operate like that. I can understand that maybe some people do. Yeah. But I know I know that I just don't.
And it's funny, but you'd think it. I mean, it makes sense. You're in a bad headspace. You're going to write these quality emotions out on paper, but it's so hard to focus when you're in a bad headspace. And even
that's exactly right. Yes.
Nick Cave was saying just that in the last documentary he did, the One More Time with Feeling. He was talking about how songwriting had dried up for him when his son died. He couldn't write because he was in such a bad state. He couldn't write all these emotions out on paper. He could barely, contain them himself. So how can you write when your brain is not in a good way? It's very hard.
I can give an example. I've written maybe one song that relates to that, and it's a song that's buried deep in my books and in my, computer hard drive. I almost feel like sometimes it's almost like some emotions are so heavy that it's almost a novelty to think that writing a song about it is even relative or important.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though it's my life, even though writing music is my life and I love, I channel everything through it, there are still some things that have gone on in your life where I think, I just think I couldn't even begin to write about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I find myself, I think we're similar in the sense that I write a lot of, like my songs, they're personal in the sense of they sort of reflect the emotional, the feeling that I've had, but they won't be literal. Like I never really
100%
literally. I'm just as much as I used to try when I was a teenager. I think I think it's important to keep those emotions private at times and share them with the right people, and I think sharing them in the right ways.
I think there's certainly an aspect of that, and it depends. I think subliminally and subconsciously, our deepest sense of ourselves comes into every single song we write.
Yeah.
But it's more of an emotion and it's more of a sense of who you are, channeled through a different level and a different layer of ideas.
Yeah.
But I'm not one of those people that literally will write exactly something that happened to me and speak of it from the first person. And I'm just not, I find it a little bit, I don't know, like if I'll hear someone kind of introduce a song at a gig and then literally the first 4 lines is basically the introduction of that song, like it just becomes kind of a little bit, I don't know, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So speaking of songs, what is the second song that you've decided to play today?
Well, I haven't decided yet.
Oh, wow.
I've actually got my songbook here.
Awesome.
So what I did was about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I reckon it was, I decided I'd just print out most of my songs. There's not all of them are in here, and just stick them in a book. And because when it comes to playing gigs, I try to rotate as many of the songs as I can into my set. Cool. So I'm playing them, right? And there are some songs that you just go to more often in your set because they seem to just become kind of steady, regular songs in your set.
Yeah, for sure.
Didn't do that song. I should have done this one. So it's like I just print them all out, stick them in a book, and take the book everywhere I go. And it's just like, do this song. Yeah, sure, I'll do this song. And then sometimes I'll pull a song out that I only play once every few months. But it's kind of become it's helped me kind of actually, I don't know, navigate through it.
It's a great idea.
But
It
another
really is.
gig, you might do 10 or 15 songs at a gig. So
Yeah,
another
that's a great
song.
approach. Yeah.
All right.
What are you feeling?
This is a song from 2012, which is actually around the same time that I wrote the last song. But this is actually a song that I put out on the Devil's Town record, and it's one of those songs that's really just, I don't know. Like, I still play it. There isn't a gig that goes by that I don't play it. It's kind of become, I think, seems to have really kind of just, I don't know, just sustained, and it's still staying. It stays relevant to me when I play it. 2010, 2011, and I travelled and went overseas to America and did a lot of music and wrote a heap of stuff, and all of that ended up being basically the Devil's Town album. Mind if you was right again. Oh, mercy me, can't you feel my despair? We had the water on the boil, woman, but the cupboards, they were bare. With my fence wire sliding and the drum keep on beating, I'm in the back of a truck with my fingers bleeding. Oh Lord, this city boy, smile again. Well, all must of me, can't you? But the cover I still got Jesus on my shoulder and the devil in my shoes. Well, I'm making my way to Tennessee. Well, we walk through this town, my lover and me, and my soul got stranded in her summer streets. So I'm making my way to Tennessee. I bought a 6-pack of beer from a girl named Sue. She worked in a truck stop on Route 32. Oh Lord, she had a beehive head and black ink eye of a lone pale rider across her ample heart. I say, oh, mercy me, can't you feel my despair? We had the water on the boil, oh my, but the cupboards, they were bare. There's an angel in my kitchen and poison in my stew. I got Jesus on my shoulder and the devil in my shoes. Well, I'm making my way to, and my soul got stranded in her summer streets. So I'm making my way to Tennessee. Yes, I'm making my way to Tennessee. Well, I'm making my way. Oh, yeah.
Mate, what a tune.
Cheers, man.
Man, that is such a fantastic song.
Thanks, man.
It's interesting how like, you know, as you said before, when you wrote it, it was a bit of a heavier time for you, and it's amazing, like, hearing, you know, even though that song it's got the fiction, but you can definitely feel the emotion behind it. There's no hiding that part of it. It's really awesome.
Yeah, cheers.
And
And I mean, that's also there in the way that you just,
mm,
yeah, like I said, at the time, it's funny because, like I said, it was a heavy period. It was that positive sense and that positive, it's never when I'm in it.
yeah,
Always kind of looking back at it afterwards, trying to kind of, navigate through it. And then an idea will come for a song,
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. No, it was
Yeah.
powerful, man. It was really
Cheers.
powerful, and I think what's great, and like bringing it back to what we were talking about before about not writing too literally, is that anyone who listens to that song, I'm sure there'll be 100 different meanings to that song to 100 different people, and I think that's sort of really cool about writing songs that aren't literal, and
That's magic, man.
yeah, and that is the magic, and that's I mean, and that's why a song can help. I know when I was a teenager, music was written my story, and I know
Absolutely.
when I was growing up, I looked for that, you hunt for it. You're like,
Well,
who knows me? Why? How does this guy in
exactly.
America know me better than my
Yeah.
parents or my
Yeah,
friends?
exactly.
And that's the
Yeah.
power
That's
of
absolutely true.
it's the power of it all, man.
I
Yeah,
remember the first time I realized that was yeah, like it was a big deal as a teenager when I actually kind of made that real connection with music to
mm,
kind of, like I'd gotten into music from when I was much younger,
mm,
like dad's records and stuff from what I can remember, probably 5 or 6 years old, listening to, all the old rock and roll records and stuff. But I remember how interesting that was, and that concept that you read into that song, what you bring to your tell a story,
yeah.
share an emotion, and then let the listener kind of take it where they want to take it.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I find, especially because when you write like this, sometimes I'll be writing a song and I'll then have to sit back after writing it, look at the lyrics, and then I don't automatically write a song and say, okay, it means this or it means work. But I think that's why it's so
But we
addictive
all
to
do
me
that
as
a little
well.
bit. We all do that a little bit, I reckon.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of a big part of why I love doing it is because each
Make
song is one
connection.
baby step.
Yeah, and connection. It's so important. Like,
Mm.
I mean, this is, like this is what we've chosen to do,
Mm.
or it chose us. And
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like times with experiences, it just forges this one thing that connects all those different things together over a long period of time. So yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
very
Yeah, that actually ties into my next song actually really well.
yeah.
So the second song that I wanted to play is a song called "Travelin'," and I look at you as like the touring master, but when I was first sort of starting out playing shows interstate, I wrote this song after playing. I think after the first tour, just to sort of reflect on the song. Um, and it was more. It's not so much about the tour itself. For me, at least, it's sort of about you all the different things that you experience, and then where it's weird. It's sort of similar to You Gotta Go, but it's more the experience. You've had the experience, and you come home and you reflect. You reflect on what's important. So it's weirdly connected but different. I think You
Yeah,
Gotta Go was very much written. Um, with the idea of traveling in mind, not so much actually having done it, because that was
yeah,
all still fairly new to me playing shows interstate and all
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So, and especially as well, like I think when you go to a city once and then the second time round and the third time round, it's a bit different every time. And
definitely, yeah,
if you're traveling alone, come with me. Pack your bags, leave a note, and we'll be free. I heard Melbourne's pretty, but darling, so are you. If Melbourne don't want to stay, we'll just pass on through. So we'll go to the country from nursery rhyme. Jack and Jill the Easter Bunny, catch her in the ride. Gretel, the witch will be history. So we'll go to Sydney and we'll what they have in money, well I have in love for you. Let's forget about the city, babe. The only color is blue. The storm clouds are raging, so let's find some shelter and beware. Ah, this traveling road is home with my best friend. And we'll be free. The road, all I need is you and all you need is me. On this traveling road, all I need is you and all you need is me.
Nice. I love your feel, eh? You've got a really genuine, yeah, your feel is really genuine, man. I really
Thanks,
like,
man.
I've always really dug what you do, and you really get that sense of, I don't know, just honesty about your songwriting, man, which is probably more, I don't know, more of a thing for me than a lot of other things. Just a really nice, honest delivery, and it's really cool, man. I love what you do.
Oh, thanks, man. Coming from you, hey, that's a big compliment. When you're playing a song, what do you think about? Do you think about anything in particular? Do you focus on remembering
That's
the
a big
words?
question, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I find it just depends, man. It just depends, and there's times when you're literally just kind of, I don't know, checking the room out, and or thinking about the next song, or thinking about that the break you've got between the verse and the chorus, so you can reach over and turn your vocal up because it's not loud enough, or like sometimes it's literally just this, literally, yeah, trying to get people's attention, or whatever. And then the best times is when I'm lost and I don't know what I'm thinking, and I'm not thinking. The best gigs I find, and we always, at the end of especially a good band gig, if we're all yapping away at each other about how the set felt, just being in it, genuinely in it. And I've got a tendency to, just get lost in it a bit, like even solo, like my eyes will be closed 90% of the time, and I'm kind of, walking around the stage and kind of getting lost in the moment. And that's why I love a lot of reverb in my mix, and I like to get kind of washy and lost in that.
Yeah, me too, man. And I think it's really a strange feeling because I think we're basically the same. It's probably the same. I've actually never asked anybody that question, so it was interesting hearing your response. But I'm very similar. Sometimes I'm thinking about like, what am I going to do next? What are the crowd reacting like? And other times I'm just completely switched off from everything around me. I'm just in my element, and just yeah, and you don't even think about it. And sometimes as well, like if it's a lyric that I remember writing, I'll sometimes remember that moment. Like I've got this one song that it hasn't been released yet, but I'll be releasing it with Fugitive in the Bay. And I'll never forget that moment. Every time I've played it, without fail, that moment's in my mind. And it's just so weird.
Yeah.
It was one of those really strange moments of intoxication where you're just looking around. Everything's a little bit blurry. And you can just see the story unfolding. And I'm just like, phone, where is it? Oh, must type what I'm thinking into my phone. And,
great. And memory's quite vivid for you.
Yeah, and it's just...
I have little moments like that with certain songs, I suppose. And some of them... Actually, because it's funny, with some, I've actually created these kind of visuals and these like stories to these songs when they're not songs that relate to anything that's actually happened in my life. Like certain songs I do. I've got a song called Old Nasty Jim, which I usually finish the set with, and I've kind of conjured up this entire imagery of this song, and so almost always. I'm in that zone again. I'm thinking of the characters. I'm actually visualizing the characters. So it just depends on the song.
Yeah, definitely. And it's special when you have songs like that because it's definitely not everyone. Because you can see the colors of the song in your head. And it takes me back to when I was writing the music of it sometimes. And you're just thinking about... I don't know. I always look at it like it's really weird. I look at it like I think it was like Windows 98. They had this really awful screensaver that was like a single ball of color just bouncing around the screen, and it was
Yeah,
like and sometimes if you had music on, it would change tempo and all this weird Windows stuff that they had back in the day.
yeah,
But sometimes,
yeah.
like for me, when I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking of the colors just swirling around, sort of similar to the screensaver. It's weird, like
Yeah,
just how it
that's
all
funny, isn't it?
how it all happens. But
Yeah, and like I find sometimes if I start to think about the song itself,
mm,
and I mean the last couple of
mm,
years has been predominantly solo shows,
mm.
is I guess that ability to change the songs up anyway all the time. So
Yeah,
I
definitely.
do a lot of that where I'll sort of actually rejig the songs every now and then
Mm.
and just kind of go with something if it's feeling right. But
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
mm.
Yeah. You look like you've got another song in you. You got the slide on your fingers.
I was going to ask you what guitar that is that you're playing.
This is my little Ibanez. So it's this really like it was this really short run series that Ibanez did. I think 4 years ago now. So they basically just did. I mean, they obviously aren't really known for their acoustic guitars, but they did this awesome series called it's like the Art Core series, but this is like the
Yeah,
ABN 6 that they did. So it's like a solid top that they sounded different from the get go. So they had
they're
that
really nice.
vintage
I've actually
feel.
played a couple of them. They're really sweet. I've got
Yeah.
an Art Core Series electric, a hollow body.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they're great as
It's
well.
actually a really, really nice guitar.
Yeah.
I've got an Ibanez 12 string as well, actually, that's
Oh,
not a bad
sick.
guitar too. Mm.
Yeah.
No, they make really nice guitars.
And the price, like
Yeah.
I think I paid like 450 for this, and
Yeah,
it's
amazing. Yeah.
I literally I sold my Martin, which is like triple the price of it, just
I
because
remember when you did that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I just play this and like when we can find the gig again, I'll just be taking this on the road with me because it's just so nice to play and then even record with like it actually records really well as well. It's got a
Nice.
really nice bright
That's
sound, which
fun.
is
Yeah.
what you want.
I mean, this thing here I've been playing almost pretty much full time since for the whole 10 years virtually
Mm.
that I've been doing this, really. This is a 1943 Stella.
Oh, beautiful.
So that's kind of a couple of pickups inside it, and it's got
Oh, cool.
stereo output. Well, not a stereo output, actually, just an output for each of the pickups.
Mm.
Yeah, and so then I run it into a nice little preamp
Mm.
and get a nice blend of the two, and it sounds really, really
Oh,
nice
that's
through a
awesome,
PA.
man.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so I was dark,
Mm.
folky, or just straight out sort of Mississippi blues, you know?
Mm.
And I kind of, and from the first record to the last record world, anything that's in that kind of Bob Dylan world, and then anything that's in that really, Mississippi Delta, swampy kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And so this one is open tuning, slide, and at the moment I'm in open E. But over the years I've varied from the first two records was all in open G mostly.
Mm.
And then
Open G,
over the
wow.
years I've changed it up just for vocals to give myself a little bit of variety with the vocals. It's a song that I usually finish the set with. And I always introduce it as a love song. A love song about a woman and her lover who conspire to kill her husband.
Perfect.
Well, she walked him down to the water. She even held his hand. When they got down to the water, it's when she hitched her plane. Well, she plied him on the grass down by the water's edge, where she sealed the lies that would lead to his demise. Well, she just couldn't stand him anymore. No, she just couldn't take him anymore, more. Well, he always told her when he was stoned or drunk or just mad, "Oh, woman, if I can't have you, then no one else can." He You're gonna have to kill me, woman, if you won't be with another man. So that's just what she did. So when the timing was right, she gave the signal just like they planned the night before. Out came the lover from behind the bush's cover with the hammer that would settle the score. Well, he swung it so high, it scratched the night sky down on his head. Supple and light. Well, the noise was so dull, it battered his skull. He went down without a cry. They tied him with the rope, held up his pain. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no. Well, I went for a swim, oh, nasty Jim, and never, ever, ever came back. Oh, no, 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 yeah. Said, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, no, oh, no, no, oh, no, no, no. Well, oh, no, no, oh, no, no, oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. Well, I went for a swim, oh, nasty Jim, and I never, ever, ever came back. Went for a swim, oh, nasty Jim, and I never came back. And Lord, he never, ever, ever came back. All right. Went for a swim, and he never, ever, ever came back.
Awesome, man. Nothing beats a good old-fashioned murder ballad.
Nah, that's right.
Yeah. No, what a great song. I have to show my friend Jimmy that song. I think he would like that song.
Yeah, cool. People
He-
get a bit of a laugh, you know, when I introduce it, and interesting, you know.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Yeah, I used to kind of think that the ones that were that found it funny were the ones I suppose you should look out for. But I think it's the ones that don't say anything at all that you should.
It's been really
Thanks
awesome
for having
having you on and getting a bit more insight around just your storytelling and the way you write songs. Because man, you write some absolute pearls. It's always, with any artist, when you've got a big bed of work to run through. It's so interesting to see, how music can change and how people change and writing can change, and then the consistency that's still there, even when the genres flip a bit. And that's one thing that's been really cool listening to your stuff more this week, is just sort of experiencing that with someone I know, because I don't know many people who've got as many songs out as you. So it's been really cool, man. But once again, thanks so much for coming on, and hopefully if you watched it and you enjoyed it, make sure you check out Frank's stuff on Bandcamp and hit like on his page if you haven't already.
Cool.
But yeah,
Thanks a lot for having me, Jordan. No, it's a pleasure, man. Like, it's really nice just to talk, about what we do with someone that I respect and I got a lot of time for. I really love what you do. So it's a nice conversation, man. It's great. Thanks for having me along.
Thanks, man. No, thanks so much for coming on, and I appreciate your time. Have a
Cheers,
great night,
man.
everybody.
Yeah, cheers, man.